Om Namah Shivaya. Mahabharatam describes the events that led to the great war of the Bharata dynasty. Mahabharatam, along with Ramayana, comes under the category of Itihasa, which roughly translates to "thus it happened" or "this is what happened." The events are explained in over 400,000 verses spread over 18 chapters, making it the longest written document in the history of humankind. The events narrated in the Mahabharatam has every kind of plots and twists you could think of. It has countless characters that makes some of the new epic TV series and movie trilogies look like short stories. For many years under the British rule as well as the Turkic rule, the significance of Mahabharatam was reduced to just a fictional work of literature and was given no importance in a historical perspective. In the past few decades, though, this has changed. A lot of archaeological as well as geological evidences have come to light that puts the explanations in the story to be historically accurate. Based on the detailed astronomical positions of pole star and constellations given in the Mahabharata, and using the latest mathematical model of the sky, it is deduced that the events described in Mahabharata took place around 7,000 years ago. So, who narrated or authored this great history? And how did the masses come to know about it? Well, we should thank the great sage Veda Vyasa, who played a key role in how the events turned out in the story of Mahabharata. And he was the one who wanted this important chapter in history be told to the common people, and so he narrated this whole event. There is a very interesting and astonishing story about how the Mahabharata was made into a manuscript, which I will get to in a minute. First, let's understand who the great sage Veda Vyasa was. The name Veda Vyasa literally means one who compiled the Vedas. There were many Veda Vyasas over the generations, but the one who took part in the events of Mahabharata was a sage whose birth name was Krishna Dvaipayana, who went on to become the great Veda Vyasa because he was the one who codified the collection of Vedas into the 4 subdivisions as we know it today. He was the author of many important scriptures, including the 18 Puranas and Mahabhagavatam. Krishna means dark-skinned and Dvaipayana means born on an island. Veda Vyasa was a very dark-skinned person who was born on an island, and hence the name Krishna Dvaipayana. He was born to the great sage Parashara and a fisherwoman named Satyavati. Satyavati later went on to marry the Emperor Shantanu, with whom she had 2 children, Chitrangada and Vichitravirya. Chitrangada dies at a very young age and Vichitravirya dies before he could father any children. But Vichitravirya had 2 wives, Ambika and Ambalika. In those days, when a king dies without a child, there comes a power vacuum that leads to war and destruction of the kingdom. To avoid this, Satyavati requests our man Veda Vyasa to produce children with the widowed wives Ambika and Ambalika. Veda Vyasa was a great yogi who had no interest in the worldly affairs and was reluctant to produce offsprings. But he could not disobey his mother, and also weighing in the future of the dynasty, he agrees to produce offsprings with the widowed wives Ambika and Ambalika. After years of hardcore meditation in the forest, and add to that the pitch dark skin and heavy dreadlocked hair, our man Veda Vyasa probably was not in his best looks when he walked into the chambers of Ambika and Ambalika. Ambika got so scared looking at his figure that she immediately closed her eyes. This enraged Veda Vyasa and he cursed her to have a child who will be blind. Ambalika, on the other hand, turned pale with fright at the sight of Veda Vyasa, because of which he cursed Ambalika to have a child with abnormally pale skin. The blind child who was born to Ambika was Dhritarashtra, the father of Kaurava brothers, and the pale child born to Ambalika was Pandu, the father of the Pandava brothers. This is the first of many significant contributions that the sage did in the timeline of Mahabharata. After the Kurukshetra war was over and Dharma and order was restored in Bharath, Veda Vyasa wanted the future generations to know what had happened. He wanted to have the events written down, and he knew this was no ordinary task. So he went to Lord Brahma and asked if he could help in suggesting someone capable of writing the entire Mahabharatam down. Brahma immediately suggested that he go talk to Lord Ganesha, the youngest son of Lord Shiva and Parvati. Lord Ganesha is one of the most revered god of Sanatana Dharma. When Ganesha was a child, Lord Shiva had a fight with him, and not knowing that he was his own son, Lord Shiva beheaded Lord Ganesha. When Goddess Parvati got furious and threatened to destroy the entire universe until her son was revived back to life, Lord Shiva replaced Ganesha's head with the head of an elephant and revived him back to life. Every god and deva blessed him with many abilities and powers. He was bestowed as the leader of the Gana army of Lord Shiva, and henceforth he was also known as Ganapati. Lord Ganesha was extremely brilliant, smart, and an expert in all subjects. Every follower of Sanatana Dharma always starts an event or process by offering prayers to Lord Ganesha, because he is gifted with the ability to remove obstacles from his devotees' path. He has the ability to protect people who pray to him from dangers and accidents, and that is why many devotees place a small statue of Lord Ganesha in their vehicles. This is why he is also called Vigneshwara, which means the Lord who helps us overcome vignams or obstacles. He has many other names such as Vinayaka, Ekadanta, Lambodara, Vakratunda, and so on. And each of these names have a story behind it. There are many stories about Lord Ganesha, but let me get back to the story where he wrote the entire Mahabharatam. As per the instructions from Lord Brahma, Veda Vyasa approached Ganesha and requested him to write down the entire events of Mahabharatam. Ganesha agreed to do it, but on one condition. He said that Veda Vyasa should narrate the entire Mahabharatam without stopping even once. Veda Vyasa knew this will be a daunting task, so he also put forth a condition to Ganesha. He said that Ganesha should write down every word only after understanding the meaning of it completely, and should not stop writing while he is narrating. Veda Vyasa started narrating the events in the chronological order, and Ganesha started writing it down. When Veda Vyasa was a bit tired after days and days of narration, he would occasionally throw in some difficult or complicated sentences, assuming that Ganesha would take some time to understand it, and meanwhile, Veda Vyasa could take a breather. But Ganesha, being the genius, took no time in understanding the words and kept on writing. After days and days of writing, Ganesha's pen started to wear out and eventually it broke. But Ganesha could not stop writing because that was the condition Veda Vyasa had put forth in the beginning. He immediately broke one of his tusks and started using it as his pen and continued on to finish writing the entire Mahabharata. And that is one of the legends where you would always see Ganesha with one of his tusks broken. There is also another story about how Ganesha lost one of his tusks. This involved Lord Parashuram and his axe. But that is something we can discuss another time. This is my humble attempt to recreate the scene of the birth of Mahabharata. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please do like, subscribe, and share. Thank you.